Hi, this is Alicia and welcome back to my channel. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about second mortgages and how you deal with second mortgages or second loans on a house that's in default. Right now what's happening is the banks are handing out a lot of loan modifications, right? People are in foreclosure, but they're being forced to hand out a lot of loan modifications, and sometimes the people don't really qualify that much. So what happens is that they end up back in default, and what's going to happen is that they're going to be forced to sell this time, and you'll be faced with it as an investor down the road when you go to work with people that are in distress. Okay, so in a subject to situation, when you're dealing with property that's in default, obviously you know that you have to cure the default at some point so that you can keep the house, otherwise it's going to be foreclosed upon. But when I'm talking about the time when they have been dealt with, in other words, the lender gave them a loan modification, and so it's no longer in default, right? And so now they are back in the situation where they cannot pay anymore. At this point, then it's a great time for an investor to step in and save the house. All right, so the question really is, so how do you deal with a bank that holds a second mortgage that's in default? Well, first let me say this. Subject to deals, in a subject to deal situation, you really want to save the house, right? You are not trying to aggressively do a discount and do a short sale and all that. This is not a short sale situation. In a subject to deal situation, you're trying to save the house so that you can keep the house. So what you'll want to do then, actually you can handle that in a subject to situation in two ways. One, you can basically short it, right? You can do an aggressive discount, negotiate an aggressive discount with the bank, and then you basically just buy it with cash, pay it off, get rid of it. The second way is to actually work with the bank and modify that loan into a new lower payment, which is more favorable in my opinion. You know, especially if you ain't got the cash, you ain't got bank, so you have to do it this way. All right, so can the second foreclose on the house? The question is emphatically yes, absolutely. They can foreclose because, like the first, they are a mortgage lender. They're a lender like the first that hold a mortgage, a loan or a lien on the property, and they have the right to foreclose if they're not getting payments as agreed. All right, so what was the other part of the question now? Actually, yeah, so they have the right to foreclose even if you're current on the first. All right, so they especially like to foreclose if they see a lot of equity. You know, that means there's gonna be enough money for them to be paid off. In full, actually. So, but what happens if there's not enough equity, right? There's not enough equity, and they are not being paid. Then they're less likely to foreclose because there's not enough money to pay them off. So here's what happens when a lender tries to take back the property, or not tries, but when they take back a property or when they foreclose on a property. Then there's a lot of expenses that has to be paid off. In the case of the second loan holder, they're not really getting paid, right? When they take back the property, they're not really actually gonna get paid right away because there are things that have to be done before they get back the house. Because that's really what they're doing when they foreclose. They're getting the house back so that they can turn around and sell that and eventually get their money back. So they don't like it, and they're less likely to want to do that. They look at the first to see what they're gonna do. So in interesting cases where the second loan holder is not normal. So it's important to see what the reason for that second loan is and why they're there. So for example, if let's say this was a personal second loan lien holder, somebody that the homeowner paid off for gambling debts, for example, or let's say they they had a peculiar type of a lender on the second loan for whatever reason that is. Uncle Ned, somebody like that, who wouldn't mind taking back the house. So sometimes it's necessary when for that second loan holder to just go ahead and foreclose, get rid of everybody, lien, taxes, first mortgage and everybody, and get rid of everybody, and then take back the house so that they can keep the house or they can have the house themselves. For somebody who's just like a small investor or a relative or something, they don't mind, because what else do they have to do, except for that one house that they deal with. But in the case of, and I guess that's an investment strategy if you want to do it that way, because I wouldn't do it as an investor aggressively against somebody, no, that's not my style. But it is if you were a note investor, for example, and you were in the business of buying second notes, and then that's what you needed to do. You see a lot of equity and you just said, well, I don't mind the house either, I'll just take it over and keep it and rent it out. So then that would be a strategy. But in the case that I'm trying to get across here is that if the lender is just like Bank of America or somebody who is just a regular lender for real estate, then they're not apt to do any of that. They're more like opportunists. I mean, they're looking for their money, and it's just a business. It's only business, nothing personal, right? So nevertheless, it's the same situation. Before they can ever get paid, they have to go through some expenses, right? So there's legal expenses, there's gonna be some property taxes, there's gonna be code violations, maybe there's HOA, what else did mechanic liens, and liens like personal liens, maybe they won't get paid, but mechanic liens, taxes, those things will have to get paid before they can foreclose or as they're foreclosing and on the property. Then they have to turn around and put the house back on the market and try to sell it so they can recoup what is owed to them. So that's a lot of hassle, you know what I mean? And banks don't really like doing that. So in this case, I think there is an opportunity here to actually work with the lender, because then, especially if there's not enough equity, then you as the investor would point that out and say, according to the comps, this is what it is upside down, or it's not really worth as much. So if you were to take it over and try to sell it, it wouldn't be feasible. So I'm suggesting that you take my offer. And so what it could be would be like, you negotiate, let's say, a modification on that second loan for a new lower payment. And that's favorable. It's great for everybody. Or maybe even a forbearance for a little bit of time until, especially right now, you can get them. You know what I mean? Until there's a more opportune time to negotiate a modification. All right, but the point is you have to stop this default. Nip it in the bud right away, call them, and take care of this right away. So basically you can save the deal, investors, you can save the deal simply by talking to that second mortgage holder and arranging a new lower payment. And so you save the deal instead of walking away from it. All right, and it could become a really great investment. Anyway, that's what I got for you today. Talk to you later. Talk to you soon.